The Sinaloa Cartel, often heralded as the most powerful drug trafficking syndicate in the world, commands an extensive network responsible for the majority of narcotics that flood into the United States each year. Founded and operated in the rugged terrains of Sinaloa, Mexico, this cartel not only specializes in the cultivation and distribution of marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine, but also in the orchestration of complex international logistics and operations. This empire's influence stretches across continents, embedding itself deeply within the global black market and exerting considerable power over numerous underworld activities. But what drives the enduring power and reach of this formidable cartel? At the heart of this formidable empire was Edgar Guzman Lopez, designated as the heir to the vast criminal enterprise built by his father, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Born on May 30, 1986, to El Chapo's first wife, Griselda Lopez Perez, Edgar was not just a son, but a protege groomed for leadership within the cartel's complex hierarchy. From a young age, Edgar was steeped in the ethos of the cartel's operations, surrounded by the machinations of power and the perilous realities of the narcotics trade. His upbringing was marked by an education both in traditional schooling and the brutal family business, preparing him to one day take the reins of his father's criminal legacy. His story is not just one of inheritance, but also of ambition, tragedy, and a violent struggle for power within the merciless world of drug cartels. Edgar Guzman Lopez was born into a world of complexity and danger as the eldest son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and Griselda Lopez Perez. His life began on May 30, 1986, under the shadow of his father's burgeoning criminal empire, the Sinaloa Cartel, which would dictate the course of his existence. Edgar's lineage positioned him uniquely within the cartel's future plans, earmarked from birth to inherit a role that was both a privilege and a peril. From his earliest days, Edgar's education was twofold: formal schooling and an intensive covert apprenticeship in the family trade. He attended a government school, where he exhibited a humble and calm demeanor, starkly contrasting the violent world his father commanded. These traits made Edgar a likable figure, both within and outside the confines of his immediate cartel environment. Beyond basic education, he pursued studies in business administration, a field carefully chosen to equip him with the necessary skills to manage and possibly expand the cartel's vast operations with a modern approach. His grooming for leadership within the cartel began in his teenage years, involving both practical experience alongside seasoned sicarios and strategic involvement in some of the cartel's logistic operations. This early exposure to his father's world was designed to prepare Edgar not just to participate in, but to eventually lead the sophisticated web of international drug trafficking operations. His life, underscored by a juxtaposition of ordinary educational pursuits and the extraordinary demands of cartel affiliation, was a testament to the dual existence that defines many narco juniors. The term narco juniors refers to the new generation of cartel members in Mexico, typically the sons and daughters of established drug lords who have been introduced into the family business. This phenomenon is not just a testament to the dynastic nature of drug trafficking organizations, but also to their evolution and adaptation in response to global changes in law enforcement and business practices. Historically, cartels were led by figures who rose through the ranks based on loyalty, brutality, and street savvy. However, as these organizations grew into multinational enterprises, the need for more sophisticated management became apparent. This shift became particularly noticeable from the 1970s onwards, as the children of these drug lords began to assume roles within their family empires. Unlike their predecessors, many of these narco juniors were sent to private schools and even universities abroad, where they studied business, law, and international relations. The objective was clear: equip the next generation of cartel leaders with the education and worldly perspective needed to maintain and expand their inherited operations, while evading increasingly sophisticated international law enforcement tactics. Edgar Guzman Lopez epitomized this new breed of narco junior. As the chosen heir to the Sinaloa cartel's throne, his role was significantly different from that of his father, El Chapo. Where El Chapo had built his empire on a foundation of fear and force, Edgar was prepared to lead with a blend of traditional cartel ruthlessness and modern business acumen. His education in business administration was part of a broader strategy to integrate more refined economic strategies into the cartel's operations, thereby securing its future in an age where the lines between legitimate business and criminal enterprises are increasingly blurred. The assassination of Edgar Guzman Lopez on May 8, 2008 was a brutal event that underscored the violent risks inherent in the world of drug trafficking. The events leading to his death unfolded rapidly, with tragic consequences. Edgar was preparing a surprise for Mother's Day, planning to celebrate with his beloved mother. His errand to a local shopping center in Culiacan, Sinaloa was meant to be a routine purchase of groceries and gifts. Accompanied by his cousin, Cesar Ariel Lara, and his friend Arturo Mesa Cazares, Edgar was unaware of the deadly plot that would soon envelop him. As he exited the shopping center, the tranquility of the day was shattered by the roar of a bazooka firing. The projectile struck the upper wall of the building just above their heads, igniting a terrifying blaze. This marked the beginning of a coordinated assault by over 40 heavily armed men. These assailants, equipped with AK-47 rifles and adorned in bulletproof vests, had laid an elaborate ambush. They swiftly encircled Edgar and his companions in the parking lot. The chaos that ensued was deadly. As Edgar and his companions attempted to reach their vehicles, one of which was armored, they were met with a hailstorm of bullets. The gunmen unleashed a barrage of over 500 rounds at point-blank range, leaving no chance for escape. The execution was not just an assassination, it was a message marked by its public and violent nature. The immediate aftermath of the assault was horrifying. The parking lot was a gruesome scene with the bodies of Edgar and his associates lying unrecognizable, submerged in pools of blood. The impact of this assassination rippled across the nation, sending shockwaves through communities and the upper echelons of cartel power structures. The brutal nature of Edgar's death and the boldness of carrying out such an act in broad daylight spoke volumes about the internal conflicts within the cartel world and the lengths to which rival factions would go to assert their dominance. The news of Edgar's death devastated Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, both as a father and a cartel leader. In a profound display of sorrow, El Chapo ordered the purchase of every available rose in Culiacan to adorn his son's funeral, a gesture that spoke volumes about his personal loss. The sheer scale of this act left local vendors without stock for the upcoming Mother's Day, a significant day that Edgar himself had been preparing for. The funeral was marked by grandeur and grief, with a famous Mexican artist performing a corrido entitled 50,000 Roses, which poignantly narrated El Chapo's despair from his perspective, highlighting the deep bond and shattered dreams for his favorite son. Edgar's mother, Griselda Lopez Perez, expressed her anguish and frustration over the relentless media portrayal of her family as mere drug traffickers. Overwhelmed by the stigma and the constant public scrutiny, she spoke out vehemently against the media, criticizing them for oversimplifying and demonizing her son's life and legacy. Her reaction underscored the personal toll of living under the shadow of a notorious legacy, and her desire to protect her family's dignity against widespread condemnation. The assassination also instilled widespread fear throughout the Sinaloa community. Edgar's death was not just a personal tragedy, but a stark reminder of the volatile power dynamics with cartel-infested regions. Anticipating possible retaliatory violence and further instability, many locals voluntarily imposed a curfew, confining themselves to their homes for days. Initially, many fingers pointed at the Juarez cartel, known rivals of the Sinaloa cartel. The hostility between these two cartels had been well documented, with both groups vying for control over lucrative drug trafficking routes and territories. This rivalry provided a plausible motive for the Juarez cartel to target Edgar, potentially weakening El Chapo's operational capabilities and striking a personal blow against him. However, another theory emerged when Frida Munoz Roman, the widow of Edgar, publicly accused the Beltran Leyva brothers of orchestrating the hit. The Beltran Leyvas had been close allies of El Chapo, but had turned into fierce adversaries following internal disputes. According to Frida, the split was acrimonious enough to motivate the Beltran Leyvas to eliminate Edgar as a form of retribution and to destabilize El Chapo's grip on the cartel.